The Freedom of Information release covers over 1 million documents, detailing experiments and operations performed by the CIA over the last 50 years. Something of a secret Cold War that happened under the noses of the civilian population. Much of what we're about to show you is not only disturbing, but completely unbelievable.
Case number: Blinker. Entity: Risk Level 2. Stable population throughout the Midwest United States. Overview. The first verified instance of a blinker entity was in Wyoming in 19. Though it is very likely the case that the entities themselves have existed for much longer. Considering the breadth of the infestation, it can only be assumed that the species has long been thriving and was only discovered due to the introduction of closed-circuit television cameras into the consumer market. The blinker is expected to be responsible for nearly 1/5 of all disappearances in the United States, and due to their inconsistent feeding schedule, are often mistaken for typical incidents of kidnappings, runaways, serial murders, and other banal missing person cases. Before the year 2000, when some anomalies were allowed to be known by the public, all instances of blinker attacks were either left for the public to misappropriate to other causes or actively covered up by the division. As the use of household security cameras became more common, and even ubiquitous, the amount of work required to cover up the growing number of instances became too much for the division to handle alone, and a separate specialized subdivision was created in order to ensure the masquerade was not broken. This became an enormous logistical and financial issue for the division until the existence of these creatures could be revealed. During this time, civilians were given MK procedures 13, 15, and 17. Civilians were transferred to government custody after MK procedures failed, and civilians were terminated. Though these were mostly cases where a civilian became fatally wounded by a blinker, and typical processes would have been inconvenient. The exact number of individual blinkers, both historically and in perpetuity, is difficult to account. Some, albeit pessimistic estimates, consider it possible that there are as many as 5 blinkers in any given suburban neighborhood in the Midwest and New Mexico. This population is trending larger, and the blinkers themselves are venturing into less ideal climates as territory becomes more scarce. The driving force in this spread is demonstrably correlated with the increased number of foreclosed, corporation-owned, and otherwise unoccupied houses, as these are the ideal nesting spots for blinkers. Based on the growth and the increased rate of feeding events, both confirmed and presumed, it can be estimated that there were no more than a few dozen blinkers throughout the North American landmass before the 1900s. This cannot be confirmed, however, due to the blinker's unique physical makeup. The creature, or Stachybotrys sapionocturne, are bipedal humanoid creatures with pale gray skin and extremely long, bony fingers. The average height of a blinker is around 7 feet tall, but they've been recorded anywhere between 5 to 10 feet. While they superficially appear to be very similar to humans at a glance, apart from the hands, they vary significantly from people, or even mammals in a myriad ways. For one, the blinker has no jaw and no teeth. Their faces have eyes, ear holes, nostrils, and, in some subspecies, hair, but the mouth is a simple triangular orifice that remains open at all times. This hole has no commonality with the mouth of any contemporary animal. The only crossover comes from ancient sea creatures from the Cambrian and Precambrian periods, such as the Sacambabaspis, whose mouths were similarly simple openings. The blinker also has no esophageal structures, and thus cannot swallow. In order to eat its food, the blinker must first shred and pull it apart with its long claws before using the appendages to manually push the material into its body. This process is extremely time-consuming and requires that the blinker take every meal to a secluded area. This method of consumption is baffling, considering the startling complexity of its other features and the accelerated rate at which the blinker species and subspecies adapt and evolve. It has been proposed that this incongruity is due, at least in part, to some underlying rule applied to complex organisms of its particular kingdom and phylum. This will be the most glaring difference between the blinker and other animals, as it is demonstrably a kind of mold, at least at the cellular level. Though no other form of mold is known to combine into such complex structures, there is no greater crossover between the blinker and anything else in the animal kingdom. It is due to its nature as a mold that empirical evidence of the blinker had been so hard to come by, as, when the creature dies, all parts of its body will very quickly degrade into a black, soot-like substance. This substance is extremely nutrient-rich and will be consumed by other molds and all other type of decomposers, as well as larger animals that can manage to eat the substance without it causing respiratory harm, namely rats, mice, and raccoons. It takes less than a day for the flesh, blood, and internal organs of a blinker to degrade into the final spongy state, while the bones, or rather bone-like structures, can take around 3 days to fully come apart. When a blinker is sick, fatally wounded, or near the end of its lifespan, it will retreat to its nest. During this process, the blinker will take extra care to avoid being followed, even when doing so would be extraordinarily painful or inconvenient. If its own nest is inaccessible, it will hurry to find a suitably hidden place to die. It's assumed that this urge to hide its own body and its unusual decomposition is an instinct that evolved to avoid discovery by humans or other communicative, organized beings. This implies that the blinker evolved into the creature it is today, or at least quickly adapted, as the rise of mankind was already underway. Because of their unusual end-of-life process, it is impossible to even speculate on how blinkers lived and hunted before the study of them began in 19, as the only potential evidence would be second-hand accounts, most of which would be attributed to local legends, or so-called cryptids. There is some reason to believe that the Wendigo, a cannibalistic, altered humanoid creature of Native American legend, may be based on an ancient sighting of a blinker, though this largely comes down to hearsay and can't be verified in any meaningful way. It's equally possible that blinkers didn't exist before humanity, as humans seem to be their staple food source. This hypothesis is not the generally accepted theory, as the sudden and coincidental development of the blinker would very likely be statistically impossible without some manner of malicious intent, either by an opposition foreign power or a combative extranormal force. In either case, there could be no real recourse, so the more convenient theory, that blinkers have existed for some time and just can't be found in the fossil record, is accepted as the official position of the AORD. Blinkers are obliquely solitary in nature. Despite this, however, they have never been observed to come into conflict over territory. There have been a scarce few incidents of blinkers coming into contact with each other that were recorded by the division, but in all such cases, the two blinkers will stand perfectly still in the darkness and stare at each other for a short period of time. This behavior is followed by a mutual patrol of the creature's respective territory perimeters. During these times, it appears the territory may shift between the two without any noticeable exchange, though this could be coincidental. The mating ritual of blinkers has been studied in the wild, but could never be reproduced in captivity. There are 3 to 4 recorded mating types, rather than the usual gender binary of larger animals. Most blinker reproduction will take place between the first 2 mating types and is considered the typical circumstance. One blinker of mating type A will seed out a blinker of mating type B through unknown means. It is very likely that there is some manner of olfactory sense that the blinker has that allows for the immediate tracking of a potential mate, though no specific olfactory organs have been observed in a living blinker. Without any warning or announcement, the type A blinker will intrude directly into the nest of the type B blinker. The two will then stare at each other for a short period of time. If the type B blinker hasn't eaten within around 2 weeks, the type B blinker will consume the type A blinker and become fertilized. Otherwise, the type A blinker will eventually leave in search of another mate. Mating type C and D blinkers work in a similar way, though only a portion of the type C blinker must be eaten in order to fertilize the type D. The part of the body and the relative lethality of the fertilization vary wildly, with some blinkers losing arms and others having a portion carved out of their torso and becoming functionally unable to live. These mating types only appear in areas of low blinker population density, and will slowly disappear from the breeding pool as the territory becomes saturated, after which only type A and B blinkers will be born. If the population density is reduced through culling or other mass die-offs, type C and D blinkers will be born en masse. The biological causality of this is unknown, but is assumed to be associated with an olfactory organ or sense that the blinker is presumed to contain. After the conception, the fertilized blinker will begin to excrete a gray mass from its eating orifice and cover the nesting area with this substance. The substance, though chemically similar to the mold that makes up the blinker's body, is not living tissue, but rather functions as bodily fluid, despite being mostly solid. The gray mass, by nature of its shape and consistency, works to obscure vision in the area around it by absorbing most incoming light and refracting the rest into a gray blur. This allows the blinker to camouflage itself by holding perfectly still among the nest. To any potential intruders, it appears to be an abandoned house with an unusual amount of mold growth. Most people or animals who stumble into this scenario are unlikely to continue looking through the area due to the potential health detriments, and any that do so anyway will be ambushed by the gravid blinker. During the gestation period, the blinker mother will either remain hidden completely or begin to overeat. The difference in behavior is split, and there has been no data collected to explain why it diverges. It is presumed that there is no specific caloric need for the blinker to eat more than usual, as the ingestion of the mated blinker is most likely enough to maintain the mother's needs. This is the only time a blinker will display this behavior. When unfertilized, a blinker will always abandon its nest as quickly as possible when discovered. It is because of the added aggression during pregnancy that the nesting habits were discovered and became possible to research. Before this discovery, it had become a priority issue for the division to find out where the blinkers were during the day, as all previous blinker nests discovered were presumed to be abandoned and not noticeably different from a normal abandoned house, shed, or crawl space. At around 40 days, the gravid blinker will retreat into an area of its nest that is in complete darkness and slightly higher humidity. The creature will then deposit anywhere from 1 to 20 peridioles from its mouth orifice. Each one will be roughly the size of a basketball at first, and the act of depositing the egg sacs cause severe distension on the blinker's body and neck, occasionally leading to minor tearing. The peridioles themselves consist of a slimy mucus-like coating that is black and toxic to most mammals. The next layer is the skin of the sac, and below that will be the primordial form of the blinker's development, along with a sort of nutritious slurry mixed in. The creature has no fetal development stage, but rather a sort of preemptive metamorphosis. Much like a butterfly or moth in the cocoon, the blinker spends its infancy as a delicate semi-liquid. Over the course of 2 weeks, the slime will develop into its final quasi-humanoid shape, though on hatching, the juvenile blinker will only be around 4 feet tall. It will also refrain from walking on 2 feet until it's near its final size, instead skittering around on all fours in such a way that other bipedal animals are essentially incapable of. The young blinker's body is significantly softer and more flexible, and their claws don't have the strength or sharpness to tear apart their food on their own. As the creature grows, the mother blinker will exude more slurry for them to poke into their mouths. It does not take them long to learn how to safely eat in this manner. Despite the bumbling nature of the children, they are innately deft and adept at maneuvering their unwieldy claws into the delicate membranes of their body's digestive system. Once they've grown tall enough to stand, the parent will share their food with the children without consuming it first, and the entire brood will eat together. The parent will divide its catch amongst all of them, seemingly by need, as the amounts appear to be very close to exact ratios. Once the children reach around 6 to 7 feet in height, they will leave their progenitor's nest and seek out their own territory. On average, 3 blinkers survive until adulthood for each fertilization event. Large broods, 10 or over, will generally include a number of runts. Starting at the point that they switch to solid foods, any children that the mother deems in excess will not be fed. After missing 1 feeding, the children will no longer attend feedings, and will instead back themselves into the corner until they eventually begin to wither. When a child dies, the resulting mold-like substance will be eaten by the others. While they're young, blinkers will spend most of their time sitting motionless within the nest. This will continue until their mother returns, even if hostile creatures are actively invading the nesting ground. Even when struck or wounded, the children won't move until their mother returns. That said, the children likely have some way to cry out to their mother, probably through some manner of olfactory organ and chemical sensor, as the parent will promptly return with overwhelming haste and ferocity. It is assumed that this behavior developed as a way to continue hiding the blinker's presence, regardless of whether or not the intruder is dealt with. After all, if the children are killed, their bodies will quickly degrade, and little helpful evidence will be left behind. The intruder, however, will be marked by nature of being in the nest and accruing mold spores on their skin and clothes. The parent will stalk the intruder for up to 7 months, and if convenient, will hunt them. Otherwise, the parent blinker will simply find a new nest. Perhaps the most unusual trait, and certainly the most dangerous, is their visual acuity and the mysterious way that their vision works. As the name suggests, the blinker is almost always blinking. Outside of the nest, the blinker will close its eyes roughly 20 times a second, compared to an average of 5 times per second within the nest in a resting state. This is presumed to be a quirk of the eye's function and not a superficial action due to its ubiquitous appearance and the difference in behavior between hunting and resting. The implication of this is that the blinker's eyes must be rapidly closed and opened to work effectively. There may be any number of reasons for this, but the most likely theory points to a kind of periodic exposure system, or, for a technological crossover, frame rate. Radio, sonic, and audio telemetry readings of a living subject's eyes suggest that the creature must blink to update what it's seeing in the moment. Paradoxically, the rate at which it blinks is, on average, considerably slower than the rate at which the human eye takes in information, despite the obvious advantage of energy efficiency, which must be part of the reason a blinker can go so long without eating. This presents an obvious issue with hunting and tracking behaviors. In essence, the slower frame rate of the blinker's eyes suggests it should be a clumsy and ineffective hunter, but this is absolutely not the case. The creature is incredibly adept at tracing and intercepting its prey, as well as predicting the motions of surrounding people and animals in order to move through its environment without being seen. The presumed function of its eyes does not align with the very clearly impressive effectiveness of its visual perception. Since the body of a blinker doesn't last long enough to be studied, and no attempts at preserving a blinker's living form for testing have succeeded, this diversion from the norm is assumed to be anomalous. It would make more sense to think that there's another organ or sensor within the blinker's eye that interact with extra-normal waveforms or fields rather than to stick to the known data and assume the blinker can make better choices with less visual information. Regardless, the most clear sign of a blinker's presence will be its eyes. While its slender gray body easily blends in with the concrete and shadowed yards and porches of a suburban neighborhood, the eyes are large and catch the surrounding light. Because of its blinking, a blinker in the wild will appear to be a pair of flickering lights up until the moment it strikes. Thanks to its incredible vision and spatial awareness, it is difficult to track or even see at any other time. AORD Fungal Lifeform Containment Task Force Case Number. On September 2000, one Edward Barlow was harvested by Blinker Entity Designation Number 2931 of the Grapevine neighborhood of Metro St. Louis, Missouri. Unbeknownst to the division at the time, Mr. Barlow had, through his work in finance, deep ties to local crime syndicates, as well as a number of low to mid-level politicians. Since the victim's history wasn't properly assessed, the task force allowed his disappearance to go uncovered and remain a mystery. Should protocols have been followed correctly, Mr. Barlow's disappearance would have been initially covered up until a more suitable cause of death could have been fabricated. Due to this failure, attention to the case quickly grew beyond the division's control, and soon Mr. Barlow's disappearance garnered the interest of true crime enthusiasts and various associated content producers. While most of the people who came to investigate the disappearance, or at least create online media about it, made no real discoveries and left with no new information, one well-known podcaster managed to piece together the truth of the situation and became aware of the presence of a Blinker entity in the Grapevine neighborhood. Before the task force learned of his investigation and resulting discovery, the damage had already been done. All in all, the cover-up, the consequences of failing to address Mr. Barlow's initial disappearance cost the division over $1 million. Entity 2931, Case Number, Audio Collection.
Edward Barlow spent his life surrounded by money, power, and influence. His own business, Spring Heel Investments, was valued at $110 billion. He plied his trade, shaking hands with powerful people. And, as it turned out, that designation didn't just apply to politicians and businessmen. Mr. Barlow also ingratiated himself with the cartel, as well as the motorcycle club. It's no surprise that a man like that would find himself treading dangerous waters. And in September 2000, it caught up to him. Or at least that's what we assume. In truth, there's nothing we know about this case. There's no suspects, no evidence, no body, nothing that might point to the truth of Edward Barlow's fate. It's like he just vanished. But people don't just vanish, and, in my experience, a complete lack of evidence is evidence of a complete lack of investigation. That's why I've come here to St. Louis, Missouri, to find out what really happened to the big-shot financier Edward Barlow, and what led to his fateful disappearance, and why no one even bothered to look. That was pretty good. I should probably mark this. Just talking to the little thing. Yeah, I know it's a microphone. I know it doesn't look like it. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Hello, I'm James Bechet. I was the groundskeeper at Edward Barlow's estate for 2 years. So you say Edward Barlow went on night runs, is that correct? Yeah, he was definitely one of those health guys, really fit looking. He had like bumper stickers for vitamins on his car even. Every time I saw him, he was sweaty. I only saw him after work, of course, and even then only for like a couple of minutes at most. Even then, though, he was always on some health trend or exercise fad. Were the night runs a trend? No, the night runs, he would always run at night. He said he liked how quiet it got and how empty it was, I think. He definitely painted as a kind of creepy thing, but I'm sure he liked that. He liked how creepy it was? Yeah, he seemed to get a kick out of it being kind of dangerous. I don't know. So do you think he was murdered? Oh yeah, he was definitely murdered. Guy was a huge douche. And I heard he had mob ties, too. But, you don't know for sure, right? I mean, no. So you don't know? No, I don't know. Cool. Sorry, I had to make it sound more mysterious for the show. I was trying to get you to say you don't know. Oh, I see. For sure. You don't mind me editing around that, do you? Nah, do what you gotta do. He was definitely killed, though. Oh yeah, almost certainly. With the police icing me out and no word from the FBI, I was running out of road on the Barlow case. If there was a cover-up to begin with, it must still be going on. And with no evidence available to the public and no plausible theories, it was starting to look like a big dead end. That's when one of Barlow's neighbors replied to my email. Whenever I investigate a case, I always contact anyone that might have been nearby the presumed scene of the crime. And most of the time, those emails go unanswered. This time, though, I got a reply, and an enthusiastic one at that. This guy better have something good, or I'm gonna have a lot of bullshitting to do. Fucking pigs never do anything.
Here, come here, I got the footage backed up on my computer.
Footage?
Yeah, from the doorbell cam.
You got Edward Barlow on the night of his disappearance?
No, but I might have gotten the thing that got him.
The thing?
Yeah, it's... Well...
Okay.
Yeah, just trust me, check this shit out.
Wait, what is that?
That's the thing. Here, check it out in slow motion.
What the fuck? Are you fucking with me right now?
I swear to God this is real. A friend of mine says he saw it in the park down the road again.
What even is it? When is this from?
February.
Okay.
Yeah, so not super close to the Barlow thing, but I bet your ass this is the thing that got him. He's always going on those night runs and shit.
Okay. I am here at Park in the Grapevine neighborhood. It's definitely not as nice as Edward Barlow's neighborhood, but this is part of the route he would take on his runs, from what I could piece together. It's very quiet here, and very dark. Without the moon in the sky and the fences casting shadows over the greenway path, I can definitely see someone waiting in ambush here. I can definitely see someone, or something, waiting in ambush. Ugh. Maybe it's not too late to go to Vice News style and try to talk to the gangs. People love that shit. Guess they love monsters too, but... I am seeing 2 flickering lights. They look like they could be eyes, but they're... Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God. Those were eyes. Those were definitely fucking eyes. Oh my God. Holy shit. Holy shit. Yes. What the fuck was that? Okay. This just became a monster hunt. Holy fucking Toledos. I don't know for sure what I saw that night. Maybe it was just 2 flickering lights. Maybe the suggestion that put in my head made my eyes play tricks on me. But if that was the case, how did those lights move like that? How would any lights move just like 2 eyes as the head turns away? It was disturbing to think that I might be seeing things, but not nearly as disturbing as thinking I wasn't. You see, there's something else I haven't told you about the eyes I saw at the park, and that's that they were some 7 feet off the ground. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm still shaking. I need to save all these files for Patreon. Oh, I need pictures, don't I? No one's gonna believe me if I don't have fucking pictures. Fuck. Okay. I have been walking around this park for hours, and this is the 2nd day. It is terrifyingly dark now, but I've seen nothing. I'm not exactly sure what to look for next, but I haven't seen the eyes, and I haven't seen any flickering lights that I could have mistaken for eyes, so... Oh, Jesus. Just the motorcycles. Oh, fuck. I'm gonna have to figure out a new path. I'm thinking, if this is a real thing, it has to live somewhere. And it's not like everybody's seeing it, so it's probably only coming out at night. Which means during the day, it has to have somewhere to hide. I think that might be my next path. Oh boy. I hope I don't fucking find this thing. So I've been poking around gullies and parks, pretty much anywhere you could hide something as big as a person, essentially. Probably bigger. And I've got nothing. Then I thought, there's a housing crisis going on right now. So there's probably some, vacant houses. And sure enough, there's quite a few. I'm going to check some of them out, but it is starting to get dark. Maybe that's the best time to check, since the thing won't be in there, hopefully. I don't know. It's starting to get really paranoid about all this. It always feels like something's watching me, but I don't know if it's true or if I'm just scared shitless because I saw a fucking actual monster in real life. Probably. I don't know anymore. Anyway, that's when I realized I should check the vacant houses. With a housing crisis going on. No, that's bad. After all, what better place for a monster to hide than a vacant home? And with the housing crisis the way it is, there's plenty of places for it to live. It's pretty good. As I walk between these vacant houses, I can't help but realize just how many places there are in the average neighborhood that can't be seen during the night. We always associate these kinds of places with safety, with home. But the truth is, there is nothing but blind corners. And some of these houses aren't homes at all. Jesus. Spooking myself. Alright, here comes the next one. Okay. Shit. Jesus Christ, this place is moldy as fuck. Oh, God damn it. It's the slow close on the door. This place is nasty. I've never seen so much mold on the carpet. Refrigerator's still running. I don't know what I'm looking for, but if anything's living here, it must be fine with fucking mold. It's so squeaky. Something just came in the front door. Okay. I got out of the house. I don't know if I got that on tape, but it was there. It was 7 feet tall, 8 feet tall. It had claws. I'm done looking into this. This is too much for me. No fucking way, man. I keep feeling like it's following me. Fuck's sake. Fuck. No.
FOY is written and produced by Kit Curtis. The intro and outro music, A Special Kind of Hell, was produced by Beware the Patternmind, whose music is available wherever good music is played. This month's episode was titled Blinker, and it's based on my desire for there to be more suburban monsters. If you like the show and want to hear more of it, pray to whatever God you can think of. Pray for me. And thank you for listening.